From Thanos deciding he'll do it himself after Avengers Age of Ultron, to J.J. Jameson telling the whole world Parker's secret in Spider-Man Far From Home, the MCU is known for its post-credit scenes. And today, I'll be talking about the biggest scenes that changed the entire MCU. Starting with the iconic post-credit scene from Iron Man. Nick Fury started the Avengers Initiative. The Marvel Cinematic Universe started with the release of Iron Man in 2008. The movie introduced us to the iconic Tony Stark, genius, millionaire, playboy, philanthropist, who would put on the Iron Man suit and become the MCU's first superhero. Plus, this was the first time they did the post-credit scene thing. And now you can't pay me to leave the cinema early without looking for them. So, what happened was, Stark goes back to his house after telling everyone that he's Iron Man, but he finds Nick Fury in his living room. The director of S.H.I.E.L.D. tells him that he's now a part of a bigger universe, and we hear about the super secret Avenger Initiative. Samuel L. Jackson's entry as Fury set the stage. Those were the good old days, right? The scene set up the origin stories of the rest of the Avengers, as well as the 2012 movie The Avengers. For the first time in history, Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. were able to bring Earth's mightiest heroes to defend Earth. If you loved this scene, you must have lost your mind over the one in The Avengers. We got to see Thanos for the very first time. Marvel Studios' first crossover event was in 2012's The Avengers, which brought together the original Avengers team: Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, Dr. Bruce Banner as the Hulk, Thor, the God of Thunder, and the fearless spy Agent Natasha Romanoff, codenamed the Black Widow, and Clint Barton as Hawkeye. So, in the movie, we thought the big bad guy was Loki, the God of Mischief, and Thor's adopted brother. But after the Avengers get together to put a stop to his plans, it's revealed that he was being backed up by someone else. Someone a lot more powerful and terrifying. This basically sets us up for our first bad guy, and we got to see a glimpse of the Mad Titan. Josh Brolin is our official Thanos now, but in this post-credit scene, he was played by Damien Poitier. This reveal sets up the rest of the phase. That too with just a slight turn of his big purple head and an evil smile. Speaking of evil smiles, remember how satisfied J. Jonah Jameson was in the mid-credit scene for Spider-Man Far From Home, when he revealed Peter Parker's identity? You might hate the man for this, but he is one dedicated journalist, and he finally unmasked the menace. This film marked the end of the Infinity Saga. It was set after the events of Endgame, and dealt with Peter Parker's sadness over Tony Stark's death. We were all devastated for Pete's sake. The iconic J.K. Simmons returned to the part of J. Jonah Jameson from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, giving us some nostalgia, while also setting up the future for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. By showing Peter Parker as a young boy, the MCU was able to make their version of the web-slinger super accurate, a lot closer to the comics than ever before. Plus, it also set up Spider-Man No Way Home, giving us a much darker Spider-Man movie and a trip down memory lane, with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, as well as some of the best villains the MCU has ever seen. Well, if I'm talking about the best villains ever, I cannot skip past Wanda. The WandaVision post-credit scene introduced us to the Scarlet Witch. WandaVision was the first show from Marvel Studios for Disney+. It started Phase 4 of the MCU, and was about Wanda Maximoff's life after Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Played by Elizabeth Olsen, she really went through a lot, from losing the only family she ever knew, her brother, to having to kill the love of her life to save the universe. You can probably understand why she went flying off the rails. In WandaVision, we saw her realize her full potential as the Scarlet Witch. She was so powerful and her grief was so strong that she bewitched an entire city and brought back her sons Billy and Tommy. In the last episode of the series, she was seen looking through the Book of the Damned, also called the Darkhold, for a way to go to other worlds and find the family that she lost. This set up her villainous streak for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Since we're already talking about it, let's take a look at the Multiverse of Madness mid-credit scene, when we got to meet Clea. Most of the film was about the Scarlet Witch's destructive trip through different worlds, but it also introduced a few ideas that'll be important in future MCU movies. like how we got to see the lovable John Krasinski play the genius Reed Richards. We also got to see Sir Patrick Stewart make a comeback as Professor X. This hinted at a revival of two super iconic MCU teams, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Before the scene at the end of the film, we see incursions happening, hinting at a faraway threat to the people of Earth. That was when Charlize Theron's Clea stepped in, giving our favorite sorcerer a dire warning about his actions. As Marvel goes into Phase 6, Doctor Strange's warning about invasions in the mid-credit scene will set up his story arc. We might even get to see Strange Supreme, since we got a taste of him on What If. As it was in the comics, the idea of an epic attack destroying Earth would lead to the Secret Wars event. These incursions can change the franchise's story in a big way, just like they did for Spider-Man. We might just be looking at a much more interconnected MCU, like we've never seen before, just like when Nick Fury had to call in the cosmic big guns. Yup, I'm talking about when Fury paged Carol Danvers. The ending of Infinity War was one of the most heartbreaking of all time, and by far the most shocking one in the MCU. Like, I'm still not over it. Even though Thanos destroyed half of all life in the world when he snapped his fingers on the Infinity Gauntlet. The scene after the credits gave people a reason to be hopeful. Some of the OG Avengers survived, and we knew that they would do whatever they could to make things right. With Captain Marvel by their side, the director gave them a fighting chance. In the last short scene, Nick Fury and Mariah Hill find out about the snap, as chaos breaks out around them and cars crash. When Hill disappeared into thin air, Fury ran back to the car to get a generic pager. He almost let out his first mother the MCU. They should have let him say it though. As the pager fell to the ground, Fury was able to get a message from it. The screen flashed a few times, and then a red, gold, and blue sign with the star in the middle showed up. Fans of Captain Marvel knew in an instant what that meant. This set up her origin story, as well as how she would be an invaluable asset to the Avengers who were left. Even though Captain Marvel did not join the MCU until almost a year after this post-credit scene, the entrance of its female lead had a big effect on the story. Finally, I'm gonna end the video with one of the most iconic end credit scenes in history. Yes, the one from Avengers Age of Ultron, where Thanos got his hand into the gauntlet. In contrast to earlier films, Avengers Age of Ultron featured a single scene, and that was more than enough. Why? Because it laid the groundwork for some of the most pivotal moments in Phase 3. The entire event took place in just a minute. Thanos slipped his hand into the gauntlet and said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Literal chills! At that point in MCU canon, Thanos still had not acquired any of the Infinity Stones, but 4 of them had been introduced and used in previous films, even though Thanos didn't begin his search for the Infinity Stones for another 3 years. This was the first time we saw him with the gauntlet, and it marked the beginning of the end. On that note, that's all I've got for you on the Marvel post-credit scenes that changed the MCU. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.